This is a story called The Little Monsters. Chapter 55. The kids are grounded throughout the whole of the summer holidays. There's only 3 weeks left until the end of the summer term. The gang have decided that they are bored with school, so they bunk off. It started on a Monday morning when they met up. Kicker said to the rest of the gang, "Hey guys, I don't know about you lot, but I think the weather's too nice to spend a day in school, so I'm going to the park." Of course the rest of the gang agreed with her, and they all made their way to the park. That was about a mile away from school. They played for a bit and then they sat on the grass and ate their packed lunches. They decided to lie on the grass for the rest of the afternoon. When it got to about 2:45 p.m, they made their way home, and they got there at the same time they do every day after school. The next day is a beautiful hot day again, so the kids bunked off school and went to the park again. However, after they'd been there for about an hour, it started thundering and lightning, and then 5 minutes later it started raining heavily. The kids decided to make their way to their secret hideout. By the time they got there, they were all soaking wet and cold, so they lit a fire. They stayed there all day until it was time to go home. The rest of that week it did nothing but rain, so instead of going to school, the kids spent their days at their secret hideout. That weekend they wanted to have a sleepover at the hideout, so they all lied to their parents. Creeper told their parents that there was a sleepover at Bumpy's, and the rest of the gang told their parents that there was a sleepover at Creeper's. Then they made their way to the secret hideout for the night. The next day the kids lied to their parents again. Stampy told his parents that Grumpy was having a sleepover, and the others told their parents that Stampy was having a sleepover. That day they went and played on the swing for a bit, and then they went to the new skate park. The skate park had just been expanded, making it twice as big as it was before. They stayed there for a couple of hours and then they sat on the grass nearby and had a picnic. After lunch, they all went home to get their overnight things and some games to take to their secret hideout. They told their parents that they were going to Stumpy's for a sleepover, and then they made their way to their secret hideout. That night they played Snakes and Ladders, Twister, Monopoly and Scrabble until 3:30 a.m, and then they went to bed. The next day they didn't wake up until after 11 a.m. When they woke up they had some breakfast and then they played games for a bit. In the afternoon they all had lunch at Stumpy's house, and then they went to the trampoline park for a while. They stayed there for about 2 hours, and then they went home, had some tea, and then they went to the play park for a bit. After they'd been at the park for a couple of hours, it started to rain again, so they just went home. The next day was Monday, and the kids all got their school uniforms on and made out that they were going to school. What their parents didn't realise was that their ordinary clothes what their parents didn't realise was that they had their ordinary clothes in their backpacks. The kids pretended that they were going to school, but they walked really slowly and let all the other kids go past them. As soon as all the other kids were out of sight, they ran as fast as they could to their secret hideout. When they got there, they got changed and then they went into town to spend the money they'd found in Stampy's garage. They put their money together and bought some games to leave at their secret hideout so that they could take the games that were already there home. They decided to save the rest of their money for when they stayed at the hideout so that they'd have money for food. When they'd finished shopping, they went back to their secret hideout and stayed there until it was time for them to go home from school. The next day they set off again, making out that they were going to school. Again they walked really slowly and let all the other kids go past. As soon as they were all in school and out of sight, they ran as fast as they could to the secret hideout. That day it was hot and sunny, so they played at the swing for a bit. Then they sneaked home and got their skateboards and made their way out to the old skate park. After they'd been at the old skate park for a couple of hours, they went to the play park. When they got there, they had their lunch and then they played until it was time to go home. They stayed off school for 2 weeks, and then Mrs. Applejack phoned their parents. When they got home, they had their tea, and then their parents told them to stay at the table. They were asked what they'd learnt in school over the last 2 weeks. Of course, they couldn't tell their parents what they'd learned, because they hadn't been there. They were all smacked hard on their bums, told they were grounded all the next week and throughout all of the summer holidays, and then sent to their rooms and told to stay there. Of course, they didn't stay there. They all climbed out of their bedroom windows and met up at the swing. Then they went to the secret hideout to get some of their money to buy some sweets. The following week was the last of the school. The following week was the last week of term, and their parents took them to school and picked them up at home time. Mrs. Applejack made them stay in at playtime and lunchtime and gave them extra homework so that they could catch up on the work they'd missed. They weren't even allowed to join in any of the activities that Mrs. Applejack had planned for everyone to do during the last week of term. During the first week of the school holidays, the kids still hadn't caught up on all the work they'd missed, so Mrs. Applejack and their parents made them go to school. Again, their parents took them and picked them up. However, after 3 days, they'd finally caught up on everything, so they didn't have to go back to school until September. Throughout the whole of the summer holidays, the kids were supposed to stay in their rooms and not come out except to eat, etc. Of course, they didn't take any notice, and every day, as soon as their families were out of the house, they went out. They always left their bedroom windows open so that they could climb back in if anyone was in when they got home. Every day they went to the swing, the skate park, the play park, the trampoline park, and on rainy days they just went to their secret hideout and stayed there. Of course, none of their families suspected a thing, because they always made sure that they were home well before they were. End of chapter 55. Hope you like it, guys. Bye.